Hey guys, so we are talking about sickle cell, and it's actually what we just covered in school also for hematologic disorders. So something new was when we watched the video over the malaria being connected to sickle cell. I had heard of that, but I'd never actually researched it myself or learned anything new about that. But it does make sense to me the way they explain that sickle cell is an evolutionary process probably brought on because of the high populations of malaria to help keep us safe and help keep people from dying of malaria. I know that sickle cell is a genetic disorder inherited from both parents. Basically, they have more hemoglobin S, which means that they're sickle cell shaped, rather than hemoglobin A, which means normal cell shape. As for how they diagnose it, they do a blood smear, they can do specific tests, they can do skeletal x-ray for bone and joint abnormalities, or they can do bilirubin because the hemolysis will sometimes raise the bilirubin, especially if they're in sickle cell crisis. To inherit this, both parents have to have the trait for their offspring to get the disease. And obviously we learned you can be a carrier, but that doesn't mean that you have it. Basically doing genetic counseling and early detection are the, biggest thing that's important for that. Signs and symptoms can be, decreased in a lack of blood flow, pain is big when they're in crisis, sickle cell crisis, and so pain management is priority. They'll have swelling of hands and feet due to bone infarction because the blood isn't getting enough oxygen, and it's just very painful for them, especially in extremities. The biggest thing here is make sure that they are intaking a lot of fluid, that they're well hydrated, because the more hydrated they are, the less likely those sickle cells are to clump up and put them into crisis. Since if they don't drink enough fluids, the blood can become thickened and there's a lot more clumping. Make sure that we protect legs and feet from injury, since it's harder for them to heal. And then, just like we learned in the videos, our MedSurg book talked about how African Americans, ancestors from the Mediterranean, Middle East, and India are all more likely to have sickle cell than others. Most people live into their 40s, and the most common cause of death is acute chest syndrome because of damage to the lungs. And that's what the little boy had in the video that we watched as well. I think it's really interesting that sickle cell is just a small mutation on the DNA, just a one-letter switch. And I was interested in how the guy talked about how, it was a weird thing for evolution to do, but a lot of times evolution has a simple fix for a problem. And how the doctor in the end spoke about how now obviously malaria is going away, and unfortunately sickle cell is like that leftover problem now that we've had that evolution in the body. But that was really interesting to learn about Africa and how that guy did the testing and the whole process of how he found that out, because it's amazing what little knowledge he had as a child, and then to go back there after becoming a doctor and do all those things, that it helped us understand such a big part of medicine.